$149 US to use a slicer. Now, I don't know about you, but there are a lot of free options out there. So what makes Simplify3D so dang popular? Let's find out. And to do that, we have to go back to basics. Thank you so much for joining us on this video all about Simplify3D. Don't forget to get subscribed. Lightly press that like button and make sure that you ring the notification bell, because we are doing a whole series on 3D printing slicers, and this is the fourth one in the series. And if you want to start over from the beginning to watch them all, that video is going to be right here. And we have many more coming at you as we go through some of the most popular 3D printing slicers on the market. But this one is not about one of our free open source. This is not only closed source, but it is $159 per seat. And it's also rarely updated. But we're going to get into when was the last update that we can find later on in this video. So make sure you stay tuned. But yeah, Simplify3D, it's a cool software and it's easy to use. But you gotta be willing to pay to play. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about that? Anyways, let's jump right into it. I figured I would show you first where you can buy it right on Simplify3D's website. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. They have a 14-day money-back guarantee. So if you wanna try it, it's $149 US. You got 14 days to screw around with it before, yeah, they take your money. All right, so this is base Simplify3D. Now, we've used it before, so we already have profiles, but let's show you how to add a printer in there, because that's important. You go to help, you go to configuration assistant. It is not as normal as you might think. And here's the deal, right? Simplify3D is not built for any specific machine. So in most cases, that means that they're not developing the features for one kind of machine. So they're more generalized and work on more machines, but they're not tuned, right? So your Prusa MMU or a tool change or something like that, it's not going to work great inside of Simplify3D, but they've got lots of options in here. We know where we're going to go. We're going straight to Prusa. We're going to grab ourselves a Prusa. God, there are so many options. See, this is the problem, right? i3MK3. What about just a Prusa i3? What's that one? So I'm pretty sure it's this. We'll grab it and we'll hit finish. So now, viably, we have a Prusa i3. It doesn't have anywhere near the profiles as Cura, but I do like that it comes with something to get you started. So let's look at what that something is. Also, only light mode, which apparently Cura also has. I didn't know. Thanks, Eric, for pointing that out. It's just not obvious during the installation process. But this is kind of what I've been used to. So to give you guys an idea, I went from Repetier Host to Cura to Simplify3D and then to Prusa Slicer. And the only reason we still use Simplify3D to this day is that it has amazing support generation. So let's take a look at it. So now we're in the base printer, and I already see a glaring issue that your extrusion width is set to the exact same diameter as your nozzle. Now, that's not how it should be. It should be probably around 0.45. Big glaring issue right from the freaking start. These are not great settings for a Prusa, but you know what? We're gonna leave it bone stock, Grant. Leave it bone stock. The only thing you're gonna change is you're gonna go to 10% because really the rest of it doesn't matter. Top and bottom layers at 3, outer perimeter shells at 2. You know, again, setting your primary layer height. And by the way, that's advanced. Simple literally just lets you choose infill percentage, include wrath, and generate support. That's really it. And you can choose between different materials here, different print qualities. I've never really used this because I don't find that it updates everything that I would want. So generally speaking, we make specific profiles for things. So you can see these are all of our profiles for our different machines. We make different profiles for each material and save it as a new profile. They don't limit you as to how many profiles you can have, so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, options here are good. Under additions, you're able to choose things like rafts, prime pillars, and ooze shields. We all know my feelings about rafts. What I do like is their skirt and brim is not specific. All you do is choose the distance from your part. So if your distance is 0, that now becomes a brim. If your distance is anything other than 0, it would be a skirt. Infill is, either primary or secondary extruders, and you can add all that in here. But again, it does become a problem when you go to coding. Infill is going to stick to be rectilinear for your internal and external fill patterns, which is a little ridiculous. You'd probably want to use grid. They don't have cubic, adaptive cubic, gyroid, any of that. Although that might be what they call wiggle. They don't have a lot of infill options, and that kind of sucks, right? Cubic is a better infill pattern than grid. Cubic is a better infill pattern than most. An adaptive cubic brings the wonderfulness of cubic with the ability to look ahead and decide how much material you actually need. And that to me is a beautiful mixture and melding of quality and speed into a system that just friggin' works. Minimum infill length is a great feature as well. Not a lot of other slicers have it. I believe Cura does, but it's an infill segment with total length below this value will not be printed. Minimum infill length is great for Bowden printers because you can set it to only print infill lengths that are larger than, in this case, 5 millimeters. And it's great when you have a Bowden printer with like 7 or 8 millimeters of retraction, so you don't end up grinding your filament over 2 millimeter extrusions. Under support, you can generate support material. Somewhat simple settings, but you'll see why their support material is so good in just a minute. Temperature, exactly what you would expect. They allow for a lot finer detail, like layer by layer temperature control, and it is easier than most others. All you literally do is you say, all right, well, layer 5, I wanted to go to 215, add set point. Done. Layer 1 is 200. When it goes to 5, it'll go to 215. Real simple. Remove the set points if you don't want them. And you, of course, have your heated build platform as well. Cooling, exactly the same way you'd expect it. Now, my preference is that you can kind of set it based on layer times, but this program doesn't let you do that. Prusa Slicer, Cura, and I think Idea Maker all allow you to set it based on the amount of time. You can increase the fan speed for layers below a certain amount, but it won't vary the fan speed based on how long your layer takes, which is a great feature of some of the other slicers. G-code is not what you think it is. G-code is where you would think that you do all of your custom G-code. No, it's not. No, that's actually not under scripts. So, yeah. G-code is where you set similar parameters for what your machine is expecting. Things like your baud rate, your firmware type, offsets if you have them, and any of these other options. Scripts are where you do all of your custom G-codes. You have your starting, which, by the way, this is not great. There's way more that you should have for starting G-code in a Prusa printer. Things like you don't want to probe with your nozzle at the exact same temperature that you're going to print at because it will ooze. They're showing you that your printer should run the latest firmware, which is 3.0.7. That firmware is so old, it's not even listed anymore. We are currently running 3.10.0 as of recording this video, which is active as of May 7th, 2021. And so as you can tell, they're not updating this. It's one profile that was built a long time ago and hasn't been freaking touched. So if you really want to use Simplify3D, you kind of have to use Prusa Slicer first, pull all the G-code out of that and put it into Simplify. And yes, you can go online and I'm sure find a great FFF profile, which is what they name their printer profiles, for the MK3S. but it's not manufacturer provided. And I'm sure I can go out there and find great profiles for the Prusa printers inside of Prusa Slicer. Chris Warkaki is famous for his pretty profiles, but we're looking at these stock. And I have a feeling this is not going to run. So if for some reason this doesn't run, I will use one of my Prusa profiles that I know works, but I'll make sure to set all the settings back so it matches this profile. If we go over speeds, it's kind of what you would expect, a very basic speed system. What I don't like is that all you really choose is your default printing speed, your outline underspeed, your solid infill underspeed, which can be an overspeed, and a support structure underspeed. That's it. There is no way to vary the speed between your perimeters and your infill, which is a huge problem to me, where I want to run my infill much faster than I want to run my perimeters. It's always been a problem for me. I wish they would add more processes. And that brings me to something with Simplify. They update basically never. And it is a bit of a problem. We look into other, it gives us some options for bridging, filament diameters, filament price and density, tool change retraction if you have tool changers, the MK3S does not, and of course horizontal size compensation, which is great if you need to make a model just a little bit bigger than you think it should be. Under advanced, you can do layer modifications where you can change different settings via the layer heights, which is only done by the millimeter of part printed. So you have to do a little bit of math to figure it out, but it could be worse. Thin wall behavior is really great. This was something that they really did, as far as I'm aware, first, but I have a feeling Cura probably did it first and I'm just not aware of it, where you can have gap fill or single extrusion walls, which is awesome when you're doing thin-walled parts, and you can add your overlap quite a bit. Single extrusion settings are all down here. That is about all of their settings that they have. Let's do what we always do, and let's get in a Benchy. Interesting, I have not updated to this latest version until now. One of the previous versions, you were able to drag and drop your models in. Now you actually have to go to import, so let's pull it up real quick. Yay, little Benchy boat. Now, let's take a look at our support settings. Now, normally you would not support a Benchy. It's not common to do so. I'm going to take my pillar resolution to 4, and I'm going to generate support. Now, we might, let's go down to 2. It'll give us some more stuff to play with. We might say, we want support here, but we don't want it there. In most slicers, that's not really possible. You have to mess around with your overhang settings. This, all you gotta do is go click, click, click. It makes life so much easier, and you can see it will sometimes do some weird stuff. All you gotta do is just click it to get rid of it. That's what I love about it. And you can, of course, add more, and you can add it wherever you do so feel fit. And it will generate it as long as it can. So I'm gonna give it a nice big wall of support material here, and we'll see that when we go ahead and go to print, it actually generates all of that support material. Kind of interesting. Oh, okay, well, there's your wiggle as well. It is not gyroid, so I'm gonna go back and I'm going to change it to rectilinear, which is what it was from the factory. Rectilinear, it's one direction each layer. And no, Harry Styles is not going to be here to help you with your 3D printing. This is not a strong printing process. It is fast, right? The Benchy is going to be fast, but it ain't going to survive much of anything. So let's go back here. We're going to go to our supports. We're going to clear all supports and click done. Automatic support is still on, which we can turn off there. There you go. We got our Benchy boat. This is closed source, so again, similar to Idea Maker, it doesn't have a lot of big community following. It did for a little bit there, because it was really the only way to do customizable supports. But now that Prusa Slicer has paint on supports, it's not really the king for support material anymore. Now, what it does have is awesome thin wall detection. So if you are doing really thin parts, I'm talking sub-millimeter thick printed parts, this is awesome. We have some complaints that it takes too long to change settings, like it takes too many clicks to get in there and change the settings. Me personally, I got used to this over time, so it's not that big of a deal, but I do think Prusa Slicer and Cura have much better implementations. But if you notice, this does look surprisingly similar to Idea Maker. Just saying. I like Simplify for the sole purpose that its support system is very, very good. And there is nobody out there that has been able to touch them. What I do like with Prusa Slicer is that I can go back out of my preview mode if I want to without having to reslice the freaking G-code. And when you're dealing with a big, complicated model that might take multiple minutes to slice, that can be a real pain in the keister. I think Simplify3D is valuable. I don't think it's $150 valuable, but I do think it's valuable. And I understand that they need to have money to do their updates. They need to have the payments to do their updates. But if you don't put out any updates, what is my motivation for buying your slicer? We've just been waiting so freaking long for version 5, and nothing has happened. It's been years. All we got was, I run 4.0. This is 4.1. There's not really that big of a difference that I can see. They have a garbage community, and on some of their posts, they have actually turned off the ability to reply to them on Twitter because they got so much flack from the community of taking so long. Boy, howdy, if that doesn't tell you something about their customer service, I don't know what will. I'm gonna check. Let's see the last time that Simplify3D had an update. I can't find it. I can see all their release notes on their website. I can see that they started, what version was their first public release? 1.0.1. And now they're at 4.1.2. But it's interesting because back in 2019, I see posts in their own forums that say that there are paid upgrades coming for version 5.0 in 2020. It's the middle of 2021. Where's version 5? They have clearly done their best to hide updates of when they came out. That is crazy to me. You would think that like Prusa, like Cura, they tell you when it came out, why it came out, and everything like that. And they post so often on Twitter that I can't easily see it. And their last big change was 4.1, but I don't see when all of this stuff was published. I'm gonna go to the Wayback Machine. We're gonna see if we can find it, because I'm now curious as to when they actually updated things. We're going to specifically check their release notes page, because whenever that got updated, that's viably when they launched new software. I see that on October 6th of 2018, they took a snapshot that showed version 4.0.1. And then the next snapshot isn't until April 11th of 2019, where we see version 4.1.2, which is still the current version 2 freaking years later. I don't know about the rest of you, but if I'm paying $150 to support a company and their development, and they haven't released anything since at least April of 2019, where exactly is my money going? Now look, don't get me wrong. I like this slicer. I do really like this slicer, but I don't think it's worth it. It was worth it back in the day when it was Cura, Repetier Host, and Slick3R. We're going to show you guys some prints for this. Simplify3D's print is going to be in green. That way you guys can see it. We'll have all the Benchies next to each other for the final video in this series. Before we do a deep dive into specific slicers to talk about their individual settings. But yeah, is it valuable? Yes, I think it is. I think its support generation is still the best in the industry bar none. But is it worth $150? No. Not with Prusa Slicer that has paint-on supports that effectively solve the same problem, as well as features that are updated more than once every 2 freaking years. And I get it. The pandemic hurt everybody. But if you look at our video all about 3D printing and COVID right here, the industry really didn't see any losses, right? We saw a lot of camaraderie and buildup of the industry, and you would think software companies would double down. Work from home was a thing. It still is a thing. Most software companies have been doing it for years. What is taking Simplify3D so long? I don't know. I'd love to know your opinion down in the comments below. Do you use Simplify? And if you do, why? We use it for thin parts, and that's really about it, because I don't think that its UI is really worth a whole lot more. Yes, it can identify and fix non-uniform and non-manifold edges. You've got full machine control panels where you can control your machine right from inside the software. It's got add-ins so you can convert images to 3D. That is not bad. If you guys want to see that, let me know. We'll do a full deep dive video on it. But with version 5 touting to be cloud-based slicing, with it being full DRM control that you must be on the internet, it smells a whole lot like Cricut and not a whole lot like 3D printing. We will do some more prints with Simplify3D so we can give it an honest chance to fight up against everybody else. And yes, I did come into this video with preconceived notions for the slicer, but it is because I have like 3 years worth of experience running it. So I'll give it another chance. We'll see how it goes. But let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys down there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Click, 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 click. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more in our Slicer series, that is linked directly below me. Remember, Patreon is coming soon, so your name could be scrolling right here as I'm doing this outro. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you down in the comments. Take care.